Hey, what is up guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel Dragon Racing. And we're gonna start off our YouTube journey with a series called F1 Alternate Universe. So in this series, we are gonna play out certain scenarios on F1 2019. We're gonna choose a driver and a racetrack which in real life he would have probably won that race, but he couldn't, maybe due to an accident or a bad strategy by his team, or just due to some mechanical failure on his car or bad luck. But everybody watching that race at that point really felt that this particular driver should have won it on that day. So we are going to choose that scenario, or we're going to try to make that driver win this particular race. And the first scenario that we are going to choose is none other than Charles Leclerc and his loss at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Now we all know what happened at last year's Bahrain Grand Prix. Charles was having a brilliant race, was keeping both the Mercedes behind, setting fastest laps, and just like that, when he was almost about to have his first win in just his second race in Formula 1, something terribly went wrong with his car, and he went onto the radio and said there is something strange with the engine, and we knew he was not going to win this race. So today at the Bahrain Grand Prix, we are going to try to race as Charles Leclerc, and we're going to try to make him win this particular race. So if you like what you see and if you want similar scenarios to be played out on my channel, just hit the subscribe button and click on the bell icon to be notified on all the latest content. So here we go as Charles Leclerc at the Bahrain Grand Prix.
It's race day and our drivers are all out on the grid performing their final checks before we get underway here at the Bahrain International Circuit. We'll be racing around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit today. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left down into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. Anthony Davison joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here today. But I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
But from the moment qualifying's over, you start to feel the adrenaline in your body build up and the buzz in your stomach as you anticipate the run down into turn 1. It's all a bit like going into battle, and the unknown situation makes you nervous. Those pre-race nerves are a good thing. The day you don't have them means that you don't care anymore. And of course you have to make sure that all the procedures are second nature to you, so that they're not taking up too much of your capacity.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and starting alongside in P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Leclerc, Alexander Albon, and Verstappen, Grosjean, Ricciardo, Stroll, and
Right, let's be patient going into turn 1. We want to be in a good position for the rest of the race. Good luck.
So we are starting off at P4 behind Hamilton, Sebastian and Bottas as the 5 lights are underway at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Here we go, it's a decent start from us as we try to move past Hamilton, and we get a little bit of wheel spin in front by Vettel. We're trying to close in on Bottas and Sebastian in front, and we go for a huge dive bomb on the inside onto turn 1, and we make it into the first place at the Bahrain Grand Prix, but we do end up cutting the corner, and we also get a warning for corner cutting. We are in the first place at the Bahrain Grand Prix as we are trying to maintain this first place and being chased rapidly by Bottas and Vettel and the rest of the pack at behind. Easing into turn 4 and getting ready for the high speed chicane at turn 5 and turn 6. Not trying to push our tires way too much. Rich mix flowing and hot lap mode on. Trying to keep the guys behind and getting ready for the right hander at turn 8. Easing past it. Bottas and Vettel are seriously chasing us behind, but we are keeping the rich mix on. We may not be able to keep it for long in this mode. A little nod of appreciation there from our engineer. He is saying it's a decent start, but I personally feel it's an amazing start. We're in the first position, and we move on to standard fuel mix and onto medium ERS deployment as we have to save some energy for the fast back straight in order to keep these two guys behind. Now onto the high speed right hander drifting out wide again, leading to the long back straight flat out. And as you can see, Bottas is slightly starting to come back at us as we switch to overtake ERS mode in order to keep him behind and counter his move and closing the door slightly on turn 14. But then we end up running wide as a result of it as I try to put the power down, and we cross to complete our first lap in the Bahrain Grand Prix, setting up the fastest lap while still being chased by Bottas and the rest of the pack, keeping a defensive line into turn 1. So here we switch back to what happened on the back straight. As you can see, the replay of how Bottas started attacking us on the back straight, literally side by side throughout the entire straight, but we go on the brakes a little late, resulting in us running a little wide on the apex, which allows Bottas to come back at us on the main straight. And as you can see, it's not just one Ferrari which is trying to defend its position. Behind us, Sebastian is getting hounded by Hamilton. It's nearly a 3-4 wide situation on the main straight leading up to turn 1, but we somehow managed to hold on to our positions, thus ending quite an eventful first lap for all of us. Now we move on to our current POV on lap 2 as we are trying to keep the lead while also trying to create some gap from the guys behind us with nearly 8 tenths up on Bottas while setting up a purple first sector timing, not trying too hard in the process. We're also trying to manage the fuel between standard and rich mix to keep the momentum going, and we also do not want our tires to go off this soon. And the ERS deployment looks good. As we can see, the utilization is at nearly half point mark by the middle of the lap, so that looks good to be running so far. And luckily this is where our teammate comes to our rescue as he starts attacking Bottas, and this allows us to move away a bit from the rest of the guys. As you can see, we are trying to set up a good sector 2 for us, and in nearly some time we'll be able to see the sector 2 timings, and it is actually a green sector 2, and we are nearly half a second up onto Bottas and rest of the guys. Now we move on to Rich Mix on the back straight to help us widen the gap. I will also have to say that the guys behind us are really keeping us honest and are in the prime position to punish us even for the slightest mistake that we do in the coming laps or so. And as we now enter the finish straight to start lap 3 of this race, and immediately you can see Sebastian setting up a fastest lap which immediately gets beaten by Albon, but this shows that Seb has really upped his pace and is really hounding Bottas for that second place, which is good news for us as it helps us move away from him as we cross turns 1 and 2, and we can actually see on the top of our screens that Seb has actually overtaken Bottas, and now we have a Ferrari 1-2, but we'll have to wait and see if that remains till the end of the race. While all that battle was happening at the front, we also have some midfield tussle between Kimi and Hulkenberg. Kimi had a great exit on the last turn and just moves out of Nico's slipstream, moving alongside, takes the inside line and passes him on to turn 1. The Iceman rolling back the ears while also showing his experience with that sweet move. So cutting back to our POE on lap 3 as we are about to approach the heavy braking point at turn 10, and we end up running wide on the corner and immediately find ourselves being attacked from behind by our teammate who seems to have found his groove in the last lap or so. Switching to a better camera angle as we are side by side and we stick to the outer line and try to brake later than Seb while squeezing him on the inside, forcing him to brake in order to avoid running into us, and this puts Bottas back into the hunt for second place, and this is actually very good for us as we get a little bit of breathing space and we can concentrate on opening up a gap to the ones behind us. Switching ERS mode to low as a lot of our battery is getting drained while defending our position from Seb, and also to use the remaining ERS for the finish straight as we are about to finish lap 3 with just 2 laps remaining. Can we get through and get the win for Charles today? As we cross the finish line and move on to lap 4, Alexander Albon in his Red Bull puts another fastest lap of the race, and while that happened, Seb makes a huge lunge into turn 1, but we again brake late and force him on the inner side, but in doing so we completely lose the front end of the car, run wide on turn 1 and miss the entry to the next turn whilst trying to not to spin in the wrong way, and somehow we managed to still remain in front. But as I look back, Seb is completely right up my gearbox and I had to close off the inner line to fend off any possible moves from him. There was so much action in this last few corners as we were almost about to lose the first position to our teammate, but we somehow managed to keep him at bay and still remain on top. But I am starting to sense a loss of grip in our soft tires as they are drifting on every corner if I try to push them ever so slightly. And we started getting worried there a bit whether we will be able to defend from our teammate in the DRS zone or not. But as we slow down into turn 10, we realized that Seb has suddenly fallen back for some reason. He must have had a horrendous exit at turn 10, which now pushes him into the clutches of Bottas, who immediately capitalizes on this mistake as they both go side by side through the DRS zone, and Bottas snatches second place away from him and also ruining a possible chance of a Ferrari 1-2. But as we follow on towards the end of turn 12, we can see that Bottas seems to have started recharging his battery again, which allowed Seb to come back at him on the back straight. They both go literally side by side again onto turn 14, but Bottas squeezes past Seb to maintain his lead onto the finish straight. But now Sebastian will have DRS as he has a better exit than Bottas and immediately comes back at him as we move into the final lap of the race. Seb moves out of Bottas' slipstream to go side by side, Ferrari power versus Mercedes power at full display here in front of the grandstand, as they are nearly next to each other throughout the entire finish straight into turn 1 and 2 before Seb charges past and takes back his second place in grand fashion. But with DRS activated, he gets a great exit and immediately starts sizing us up for the lead of this Grand Prix. We try and brake late and end up running wide while we are trying to steady our car, but we didn't realize that Sebastian is almost next to us, and we both made contact, and he seems to have broken an end plate because of the impact. And as you can see, the piece is flying off in the background, and this may cause some instability in his car for the rest of the lap. So lots and lots of action until the checkered flag, and the race is not even over yet. As we move ahead, it looks like we are facing some fuel issues, as we have to move into lean mix to avoid not being able to complete the full race distance. Even the ERS storage is almost exhausted, but we thought we are already on our last lap, and with lean fuel mix it was going to be a real tough challenge to hold up the pack behind us. So we anyway switched to overtake mode, even though there is not much battery deployment left to use. Throughout the race, we kept sticking to a very defensive line, which compromised our speed a bit, but helped us in defending ourselves from those difficult situations where we were almost about to lose our top spot. But as now we are on the end of the back finish straight, and we somehow managed to keep everyone behind us, even though it was a 5-lap race, but it was a gruesome race, and we take the finish straight line one last time to see off the checkered flag and finally win the Bahrain Grand Prix as Charles Leclerc.
You worked hard for that one. Congratulations.
Great effort there from Ferrari to take the victory today. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
I really feel the track layout combined with the track temperatures we saw today suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable out there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
And here we are, a team that is no stranger to the podium, taking their place on top once again. A sublime race today and a stunning win for Ferrari.
So finally, happy scenes on the podium as Charles takes up the top step while also securing a 1-2 for Ferrari. So this was our first scenario race in F1 alternate universe. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for amazing Formula 1 content coming your way in the form of similar scenario races and my team career mode on F1 2020. With that in mind, I thank you all for watching. Do check out my Instagram, Twitter for latest updates on my videos. Stay safe. Goodbye.